a pistol with 5 barrels built for divers, a revolver with 2 barrels stacked on top of each other, a rifle that cost as much as a car, 9 guns that ignored every rule. Let's get into it. Walther WA 2000. Most precision rifles look like a stock with a barrel stuck to the front. This one doesn't bother with a stock at all in the traditional sense. The whole rifle is built around a bullpup layout, with a bullpup so extreme that the barrel is fluted and free-floated inside a sleeve to fight heat warping during long strings of fire. It ran off a gas system borrowed from battle rifles rather than the bolt-action approach snipers normally trust, which let it fire fast follow-up shots but made it brutally expensive to machine. West Germany built barely 176 of them in the late 70s and early 80s, and each one reportedly cost as much as a small car. Too costly to ever replace bolt guns in general service, it stayed a boutique tool for a handful of elite police units. Chiappa Rhino. Every revolver ever made fires from the top chamber of the cylinder, which is exactly why the muzzle always flips upward under recoil. The Rhino fires from the bottom chamber instead, dropping the bore in line with the shooter's arm instead of above it. The result is a revolver that barely rises at all when fired, even in powerful calibers. The hexagonal cylinder is oddly shaped on purpose too. Since a round cylinder wasn't ideal for a bottom fire mechanism, it looks strange enough that people either think it's the ugliest handgun ever made or a work of art, rarely anything between. Pancor Jackhammer, a shotgun that reloads itself from a rotating drum instead of a tube magazine, holding 10 shells that can be swapped as a whole unit rather than one at a time. It cycled off the gas from each shot, letting it fire faster than any pump gun. Designed in the US in the 1980s with military contracts in mind, it never made it past prototype stage. The company ran out of funding before mass production, and only a small number of working units exist today, mostly known now from action movies rather than any battlefield. QBZ-95. China's standard issue rifle folded the action back behind the trigger decades after most Western militaries had already tried and abandoned similar layouts. Adopted in the mid-1990s, it compressed a full-length barrel into a much shorter package for close quarters and urban use, at the cost of the same left-handed ejection headaches every side-eject bullpup runs into. Millions were still produced and issued, making it one of the few bullpup designs fielded at true mass scale rather than staying a boutique niche item. Benelli CB-M2, a semi-automatic shotgun small enough to look like an oversized pistol with a folding wire stock and a stubby barrel just past legal minimum length in most countries. Italy built it in the 1980s, aimed squarely at close-range home and vehicle defense rather than hunting or sport use. Because it sacrificed reach and controllability for compactness, it stayed a niche product, remembered today mostly as a strange footnote in Benelli's catalogue rather than anything widely issued. Atchison AA-12, designed to feed a shotgun the way a machine gun feeds rifle rounds, cycling off a rotating drum and firing in fully automatic bursts. The recoil reduction system was aggressive enough that operators described firing it on full auto as barely different from firing a semi-auto rifle round by round. Developed across the 1970s through the 2000s in the US, it never secured a large military contract, staying instead a favorite of firearms demonstration videos and a recurring prop in action films and games, better known on screen than on any actual battlefield. Steyr ACR. Instead of a normal bullet, this experimental rifle fired a small fin-stabilized, dart-like projectile called a flechette, designed to punch through the air faster and flatter than a conventional round while producing almost no felt recoil. Austria developed it through the US military's advanced combat rifle trials in the late 1980s, alongside a handful of other radical rifle concepts competing for the same contract. None of the ACR program rifles, including this one, beat the accuracy and reliability of the existing M16 by enough to justify replacing it, so the whole program quietly ended without a winner. LeMat Revolver, a 19th century handgun with 2 barrels stacked on top of each other. The main cylinder holds 9 rounds and rotates around a second, separate smoothbore barrel running through its center, loaded with a single shotgun-style charge. A tip-up striker on the hammer lets the shooter switch between the two with a flick of the thumb, turning one revolver into a repeating pistol and a point-blank shotgun in the same frame. A French-born engineer developed it in the US just before the Civil War, and it saw real combat use on the Confederate side, prized for the option of one devastating close-range blast after the cylinder ran dry. It never got official large-scale adoption though, since the extra barrel added weight and complexity that most cavalry officers didn't feel was worth it. Heckler & Koch P11. This one doesn't look like a gun at all. 5 barrels are bundled into a rounded, waterproof housing meant to be carried and fired underwater by combat divers, since a conventional pistol round becomes wildly inaccurate the moment it hits water. Each barrel is preloaded at the factory with a small electrically fired dart-like projectile, and once all 5 are spent, the entire housing gets swapped out and sent back for professional reloading rather than reloaded by hand in the field. West Germany developed it during the Cold War specifically for naval special forces, and because of how specialized and expensive it is, it's stayed limited to a handful of elite maritime units ever since, rarely seen and barely photographed compared to almost anything else on this list.